Howdy folks, Mr. Reed here, and welcome to one more question. So, I'm going to be taking a look at more exponent laws. This time, I'm going to concentrate on what to do with negative exponents while working our way through exponent laws. So, we've seen before that doing the negative exponent of something is basically the same thing as talking about its reciprocal. So we're going to see that while working on exponent laws. So if you'd like to see that done, you're in the right place. So let's get to it. Okay, so as we can see up above, I decided to put negatives everywhere. That's the big difference between this one and the last one. So what we have is a statement where we have y to the negative 2 up in the numerator and x to the positive 4 over x to the positive 5, y to the negative 3, and then the whole thing is to the power of negative 3. As I have done before, I need to concentrate on grouping together things that have the same base. I'm going to do the x's and the y's, basically what I call simultaneously. So I'm going to do them at the same time because the different bases can't affect each other, so they're not going to simplify in any particular way. So I'm going to group together the x to the power 4 and that's in the numerator and the x to the 5 that's in the denominator, as well as the y to the negative 2 in the numerator and the y to the negative 3 in the denominator. So the rule is when we're doing division like this is we're going to subtract the exponents. So we have x to the 4 minus x to the 5. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. It's x to the 4 minus 5. My apologies. So 4 minus 5 is negative 1. So I'm going to have x to the negative 1 is going to be how that simplifies. So again, the reason why is because what we're doing is we're simplifying the exponent by following the rule that says we can subtract the exponents when doing the division of the same base. I'm going to do the same thing with my y's, but my y is a negative 2 and we're subtracting a negative 3. Now, this actually requires us to be a little bit comfortable with integer subtraction or addition. So in this case, I have negative 2 subtracting a negative 3, which is the same thing as adding a positive 3. That actually simplifies to give me y to the power of positive 1. The 1 actually doesn't need to be written in there because power of positive 1 is the same thing as having just a y itself. This is still all in a bracket that has a negative 3 on the outside. Now, before I apply that negative 3, I'm actually going to write my x differently. The power of negative 1 is the same thing as the reciprocal. So that is going to be 1 over x times just plain old y. And I can actually combine that even further because 1 times y in the numerator is just going to be a y. And then the x can multiply by a 1 that's in the denominator of just y if you want to write it as a fraction. And it will leave us with x over y to the power of negative 3. Now, what we can do is say that this negative here is the same thing as the reciprocal of what's written next to it. So I can write this as x over y. We've dealt with the negative part, so we still have a power of 3 there. That's actually a pretty nice simplified answer. If we wanted to, we could take that 3 and apply it to the exponent on the x that's in the numerator and the y that's in the denominator. That's another exponent law that we can use. I'm not entirely sure if x cubed over y cubed is a nicer statement than x over y all cubed. I probably would say no. I think either one of those answers in the end is pretty good and much better than what we started with. So we did a few little reciprocals in the middle there because of all the negative exponents that we're dealing with. We also see that when dealing with these negative exponents, sometimes we have to subtract negative values, which can be something that causes a little bit of stress if you haven't been using integer sort of operations for the time being. That would go, and I didn't have any examples here, but that would be also something you would have to deal with if you had to multiply the exponents together, knowing that a negative times a negative is a positive times a positive is a positive, and a negative times a positive, or vice versa, is going to give you a negative answer. So just make sure you're brushed up on the way that integer operations work, and things should be okay as long as you remember that the negative exponent means the reciprocal, or the flip if you like to call it that. All right, so hopefully you found that one helpful. If you did, like, subscribe, and as always, take care, folks.